A lot of authors showed their asses in 2020, and we had to process that information as best we could. Now, you can sit there and believe as much as you like that 2021 will be any different, but it is systematic, and when things are systematic, you have to create a different system and process to challenge that. That's what this video is. This is the video that is basically just going to outline what I do when my favourite author becomes taboo. It's really hard. When you have fallen in love with a book, a series, an author, and they have taken you to these places and they have filled your life with these worlds that mean so much to you, it is impossible sometimes to separate yourself immediately from that. Why would you want to? Your brain can't rationalise that. This thing that made you feel good, that's made you happy, or in some cases made you sad, but that also made you feel good, not here to judge, that you're not going to let go of that overnight. That's not going to happen. But you do have to go through a process of understanding where other people are, where you are at, and what your choices are going to be going forwards with regards to that author. Now, when Neeks did her apology video, she had a really pithy Satan tagline. I don't have that, because fundamentally I don't think it's as simple as a diagram for how to. When an author you love becomes taboo or they do something problematic, you are going to have an emotional response to that cannot be negotiated, and that is really difficult to navigate. So I'm not saying that this is a cure-all for how to deal with taboo authors. I'm just saying this is a process, and fundamentally if you're happy to go step by step through this process with me, it might make it easier when you're having those conversations later about authors you can't support anymore and why you cannot support them. I'm just in the comments waiting for a teacher to recognise the system that I've used. The first step with anything is the research. You have to listen, you need to find an authoritative voice, and then you need to find 100 more that are telling you what is going on, the bare facts. You have to try and remember, what do you know? What have you seen? What are people talking about? I'm not talking biased opinions. We cannot allow biased opinions to come in this early. What is being recorded publicly? What is the main discussion? Not just the headlines, I mean the full articles. And what is the impact? What is happening and who is it happening to? Just the bare bones. Once you've got that research, then you are able to move on to the next step, which is to understand. Now, if you're not sure what's going on and you don't feel confident enough to talk to a close friend about what's happening and actually say, this is what's happening, you need to go back to stage one. You haven't done enough research, you don't remember it well enough. That's fine. It's a process and you can do it as slow at whatever pace you need to do it at, but you have not done the research and you need to go back in. And I'm talking about the facts still. I'm not talking about going to Facebook and spouting off your opinions. I mean going in with, here is the evidence, here is the facts. They have been fact checked by this person. I have done this research on my own, asking these questions, I've read these articles and done the work. Because if you don't understand, then that first process has failed. So you need to go back and try again and do more. And if people are telling you, okay, well, you've misunderstood, again, go back, try and make sure you fully understand. The understanding is the gateway into the rest of the process. Until you've done the research and fully understood what you've learned, you can't move on. Your opinion is going to try and cloud your judgment in this stage. Don't let it. You are not ready to make a judgment yet, and that is absolutely okay. You need to be okay with the fact that you're not going to know everything going into this. As terrifying as it is also part of the process. At this point, ignore your instincts, do the research, make sure you understand before you can move on. The next stage is applying what you've learned, what you've understood, and putting it in the spectrum. Actions can be anything from problematic, which is Meg Cabot talking about fat characters in a negative way 10 to 15 years ago, straight on to fully harmful. There are multiple different actions you can take to land somewhere on this spectrum. It might be that you've said a little comment that then come back to bite you in the ass at the problematic end, or actually, no, it is fully harmful. They have physically assaulted someone, whatever it is, it's a spectrum. You have to apply what you've understood and what you've researched to this spectrum and determine, make that judgment where on this spectrum they are. Up to this point, you've been fighting the impulse to let your opinion win. I hope. Applying tends to be the part where most people will jump in. They won't have done the research, they don't fully understand, and you may find yourself arguing with people that haven't reached stage 3 yet, but think they have. That's completely normal. You don't have to give them your time. This is where you start to decide whether you can separate artist and art. You might not be emotionally capable of doing that yet. That is absolutely fine. Like I said, this is not an overnight process. This is not something that you're going to go, oh, well, they've done this, cut them out my life. If you can do that, then you obviously weren't emotionally attached to that author, and that's fine. But if you're finding it more difficult and you're not understanding why other people have cut that author so cleanly, it's because you have more of an emotional attachment to that. That's completely normal, but it means the process is going to be longer for you. Another part of the analysis is, can you excuse the author's behaviour? Now, it's really easy for us to put ourselves in the situation of, oh, well, if it were me. That's the easiest thing in the world that you can do, because we are inherently very selfish creatures. That's not an attack, that's just facts, like we are. It's about having empathy and understanding that not everyone is going to react the same way you do. And the reason I ask is whether you can excuse an author's behaviour or not is because at the next stage, you're literally going to be challenged on that. People are going to ask you to make excuses for their behaviour because they are going to disagree with you. So if you are not prepared to do that, to make your decision based on facts, not your emotional entanglement. And that is the hard bit. That's the main process, is remembering that you have to be rational over a completely irrational attachment to someone you've never met because of a piece of content you really enjoyed. And that's hard. Like, I know I've said that in a really callous and cold way, but that is a hard thing to do. But fundamentally, you want to remember that this is the divide and conquer stage. Can you separate your emotional response to it and your mental response to it? Everyone has two responses to something. The first, that is instinctual, that is what society has told us is a natural instinct. We have been trained to have that physical response. And the second response, which is our more emotive one, that is led from our personal experiences and how we feel to this. A prime example, and I will call myself out for this, if I see a larger person wandering around wearing clothes that are too tight for them, my natural instinct is to be like, ew, gross. Is that because their body is ew and gross? Absolutely not. It is what society has told me from years of watching films with only skinny people in it and looking at magazines with only skinny people in it and assuming that anything that isn't this stereotypical beauty is gross. That's what I've been trained to do. That's my natural instinct. My second instinct is to be like, good for them. It has nothing to do with me. I have my own issues with my body. That's absolutely fine. Not their problem. They're not ooh and gross. I am ooh and gross. And you can have those same responses with an author, with some writing, with some problematic behaviour. You're going to have two instincts. Your first might be to defend them. That's fine, you've been trained to do that. But your second instinct needs to be developed, and it can only be developed from the previous processes. If your instinct is still to defend them, this is the part where if you start standing up for an author that everyone else is saying is taboo, is problematic, is harmful, you're gonna need to know why you are happy to defend them. What is it about this hill that you want to die on? Now that you're ready to verbally defend your actions, not the authors, because this is on your behaviour now, what are you going to do? When I talk about evaluating your actions, I mean it can be anything from posting tweets about authors you don't agree with to wearing a jumper that says fundamental rights. Those are all actions. They are your choices. They are things that you have decided to do. You have to evaluate what your actions are going to be. Think about what you do before you do them. If you are not emotionally prepared to have an argument with someone on Twitter about your favourite author, you have two options. You either don't talk about them on Twitter, or... oh, I lied, you just have that one option. If you're going to start those arguments or get involved in those arguments and post that content, you are inviting that conversation. It is an open forum. In the same way that me making this video is an open forum, I am fully expecting comments. And actually, I'll be really disappointed if this video gets no comments, to be honest. I'm fully expecting comments. I'm fully expecting people to argue with me. I'm hoping that I've done the research to understand and then analyse and apply to them to this video, so that in this evaluation stage of me making these actions, of me deciding that actually I am going to make a video on this topic, I have made a choice that I can defend. That's where I'm at. I guess in a way what I'm asking you to do is decide how you're going to die on this hill. What are you willing to lose to maintain your decision. That is a decision you will have to make. It's not an easy decision, and there's no way of avoiding it. Fundamentally, you have to make those decisions, and only you can make those decisions. You may get pressure from other people saying, oh, I'm not going to follow anyone who follows so-and-so. That's their choice. You have to make your choices. If you want to skip this process and just go straight to, I have decided this author deserves to be defended, I like their work, then my choice, my evaluation of that would be, then you and I are not going to get on, because I need to be constantly learning. I need to be taking in information all the time. I am constantly changing my opinions, and that's okay too. You are allowed to change your opinion. You're allowed to not like an author that you liked from your childhood because they have done something more recently that upsets you or others. The last stage is the most important. Give yourself time and space to grieve. Nostalgia is an incredibly powerful thing. It's reminding you that a once golden era existed, and whether that's true or not, your brain is going to want to believe it because it gives you those endorphins. It makes you feel warm and happy to remember a time when you were happy. Your brain is just trying to protect itself. You're allowed to give yourself space to enjoy new things, and you're allowed to give yourself space to grieve the thing that you used to enjoy. You don't have to do this process publicly. You don't have to go out and say, I've decided I will henceforth no more be reading this author. You don't have to. You can if you want. You don't have to. It's completely yours. Everything you read is going to be personal to you. Every reaction to an author you have is going to be personal to you. So yeah, when it comes to having taboo authors and problematic subject matters, I hope this process helps you. For me, it will always be a case of learning and understanding before anything else. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, it is not the kind of video that I would normally make. This is a far more serious video, but I felt like it needed saying, and I felt like it needed saying earlier on in the year before all the trash. Comment below with your opinions on this process. Let me know what you think. And other than that, have a nice day.